Welcome to the Lost Past podcast. It's yet another Tuesday night. We have Matt Hoffman and Chuck, and the show should be out of sight. This is where the mind meets the magic. We dive a little deeper every time. Theme parks, cruise ships, and travel. If you don't listen, maybe now it's time. This is where the mind meets the magic. We dive a little deeper every time. Theme parks, cruise ships, and travel. If you don't listen, maybe now it's the time. Mousecast Podcast is diving in.
Good evening, good afternoon. We have a very special show today. And Chuck is actually off at Disney World. And we had to bring in somebody else to fill Chuck's spot. And we're wishing Chuck all the best tonight. But at the time of recording this, it's the mid-afternoon for our special guest today. It's a little later over with Megan and a little later with Matt and I on the East Coast. So we want to thank everybody for joining and tuning in to this show. It's going to be a really special one. And Megan has a very special guest. I'm going to turn it over to Megan, and she's going to tell us about that special guest joining us tonight.
I do. I'm really excited about this one because Jackie, who is one of my, I hate to use the word oldest friends because it makes us sound old, but she's one of my longest term friends. There we go. We grew up together, went to high school together. And Jackie is a paper artist, and we'll let her, talk a little bit about what that means, because I think a lot of people probably hear that and think, oh, what? But we grew up in St. Louis together, and Jackie then moved out to the West Coast to California. She went to USC, as well as did some other art school opportunities that came her way. And before she became a paper artist, she's created 5 holiday pop-up cards in conjunction with the Museum of Modern Art. She's had her work showcased in galleries across the country, including Disneyland's Wonderland Gallery in downtown Disney in California and Gallery Nucleus. She's been published across the world, including countries like Germany, Malaysia, China, and France. And she's also authored and illustrated 2 children's books. So she's just been everywhere doing all the things. She's even been one of the artists at Epcot's, the Disney fans know it as Farts, but the Festival of the Arts down in Disney World. So we're very excited to have Jackie here. Jackie, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
We're excited to have you. We don't get the chance to talk to a lot of the creatives too often, because a lot of people, I know that with your time with Disney, you also did some work with DreamWorks, I think, and maybe Cartoon Network at some point.
Kind of. I did an internship at DreamWorks too, actually, while I was in school, and then worked at Cartoon Network more in kind of a corporate world. I did artistic recruiting for them.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit. Let's start with the basics. What is a paper artist? What is it that you do now?
So a paper artist is kind of basically an illustrator. It's an artist, and my medium of choice is just paper. So some artists would use paints, or they might do it digitally. I actually cut and glue paper that you might find kind of in the crafts section, scrapbooking section of Michael's, or if you're watching this, I have a tower of large paper half unwrapped in the background from our recent move. So yeah, I would cut and glue paper and kind of make an illustration. You can think of it as like a collage, but dimensional. So it has kind of a 3D look to it due to me kind of adding heights and layers to it.
So how do you get into paper art? Because that's not where you started. You went to school originally for film, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
So how do you get from one to the other?
Yeah, when we were together in high school, I got accepted into USC's film program, thinking I really wanted to work in animation. Megan knows I've wanted to work for Disney since I was like 5, the ultimate goal. And I had parents who didn't want me to be a poor, starving artist. So my dad highly encouraged me to go into film because he was like, it's the only art form he thought could make money, or ever saw make money. So I went into film school, thinking I'll just hop over to animation. And so while I was at USC, I was doing internships, one at DreamWorks Animation, and I got to talk to a lot of the artists at the studio. And talking to them, I was like, how do I do what you do? Like, where did you go to school? What did you study? And a lot of them mentioned the school called Art Center College of Design in Pasadena in California as well. So I checked it out, with my dad. I saw the work of the students because they have a gallery there all year round. It changes out, but it shows current students' work. And I like freaked out. I was like, oh my God, this kid is a junior and I'm a junior. And this kid can do like things I could like there's no way I could do. And I quickly realized that if I ever wanted to be an artist in animation, I needed to figure out how to improve my art skills. So after USC, I took a little bit of time off, graduated a semester early. So I took that time, went back home, did part-time jobs, beefed up my portfolio, and wound up going back to art school again for a second bachelor's to my parents' dismay, of more student loans, and wound up going to Art Center again, to study illustration. And it was during that time that I kind of got into paper art. I needed one more credit to have like what we considered a full semester in the summer, but I wanted to take it light. So let's say like on average you would take like 5 classes, but in order to keep full-time status, I needed at least 3. So I picked up this class. I saw a flyer on the wall for paper engineering, and I was like, I don't know what that is, but I had just finished doing a project in a previous class that semester, that involved a lot of origami. So I was like, I'm interested in paper folding. Why not? So I took that class, and it was all about pop-ups, actually. How to make pop-ups, how like pop-up cards, pop-up books. And so I really liked it. I didn't really know how much of it came naturally to me until my teacher kind of stopped me at the end of the semester. She was like, have you ever considered doing this like as a career? And I was like, no. Like what? Like no, my whole goal of coming here was to beef up my illustration skills, to work in animation. Like no, like I didn't think about it. And it wasn't until later she kind of pointed out that a lot of what I understood came really naturally, that I could kind of turn things in my head in a 3D way that a lot of people didn't quite come naturally to them. And I didn't understand. It's like when you can think of something, you don't think other people can't think of it, right? So one of the classic examples she told me was like, if I asked you to design a shoe, how many sides does a shoe have? And like most people would answer 4, but
Yeah,
it's actually
that's probably what I'd say.
6. Yeah. So most people don't always think of it as 6. And so I didn't really think much of it, but I really liked working with paper. There was just something about it that, again, must have come naturally, and I didn't know why. So I was really, really trying to figure out a way to synthesize towards the end of my time, what I was learning in illustration, but somehow incorporating paper. And that's kind of how I wound up on the medium of cut paper or dimensional paper illustrations.
So what eventually brought you to Disney specifically?
Well, I've always wanted to work for Disney. Just, watching the cartoons as kids and seeing the movies and believing, all their messaging of hopes and dreams come true and work hard and, like I just loved that. And I always wanted to, I felt like if I could work on projects like that and create those moments back for kids when I grew up, like that's the ultimate goal. That's what I would really, really love to do. So what brought me back to Disney was, I did do an internship as well when I was at USC through Disney. I did it in character voices, and that was the department that does all the dubbing. It used to be centralized, would do all the dubbing worldwide. So you know how like their films when they're released are like dubbed in 27 languages. That was the team that would work with other teams across the globe to make sure everything synced together. So it was really cool to get to see that. And again, I did the same thing when I was at Disney, going around talking to different artists and people to be like, what do you do? What skills do I need? How do I do what you do? And so after I graduated from Art Center, I did a couple interviews with different places at Disney. I did some freelancing for them in various departments, but most of the time it was always kind of consumer products that was reaching out, because all the work that I love to do with paper really naturally translated into their packaging work. So that's why actually some of the projects I've worked on are also toy stuff. Do you remember those like animators, collectors, the little dolls
Yes.
that
Yes.
come in like a bookcase type of thing? I worked on a series with them they were trying to make pop-up play sets with them. So when you
Okay.
bought it, it actually had a fold down like little book cart that would open and it had a play set in it. So I engineered and illustrated all those pop-up play
Cool.
sets for them. We didn't get through the whole series. It was cut short, but it was such a fun project. Doing that with them, doing work with their social media team. Back when they still had like a really robust one that would create content specifically for like Instagram and stuff. So that was really fun. And then of course Wonderground Gallery, they contacted me pretty much out of the blue one day, just sitting in my apartment getting an email
That's
saying
email
someone
ever.
there. That's what I loved about being freelance, was that like you never knew, like any minute like your dream project's gonna come through an email and you don't even know, and it's like opening a surprise box. And so they reached out to me saying like, hey, we saw your work around and wanted to know if you'd be willing to do some work for our gallery. And I was ecstatic, like, of course, like I don't even know what I'm signing up for, but sign me up for it, because it's Disney. What can I say?
Do you have a favorite piece, specifically for now, a Disney piece that you worked on that you just love?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I've done so many. Probably one of my favorites is the Lilo and Stitch one, where they're standing in front of Disneyland. I had really hoped to be able to do more work with that. I thought it'd be fun if I could do them visiting various Disney parks, but have not had the opportunity yet to continue with that.
What was it like to go to the other coast and do the Epcot Festival?
That was really cool. So usually all the work I did before that was with them at their Wonderground Gallery in Disneyland. And then they decided they were going to do the Epcot Festival of the Arts. I think I went their first year.
It was
Maybe
really
their
early on.
second.
I remember you saying, "Hey, I'm going to be there," and it was one of the first 2 years. Yeah.
Yeah, it was either the first or second year, and they hadn't quite figured out their footing yet in it, like exactly what it was going to be. They were still trying to bring over some of the, I don't want to say policies, but like kind of practices of Wonderground. So the first time I went, they allowed artists like me to continue selling personal work as well in the Wonderground tent. So that's what they did at Wonderground Gallery, was they would have monthly featured artists, and then you would be able to bring in your own personal work on top of the Disney kind of commissioned work that they had you do. So you could sell your own work and then introduce people to that along with your Disney stuff. So they were porting that kind of practice or experiment over to Festival of the Arts. So the first couple of years, like you would have, when I was there for like the week, my personal artwork there to purchase as well as Wonderground stuff.
Very cool. How do you choose what of your, because obviously you're not bringing like an entire collection of stuff? How do you choose what you're going to take for something like that?
They get to choose actually. So I would send them a catalog of my work. Like, here's all the things I have, and this is how much they retail for. And then they would go through and pick and choose kind of what they felt might sell well, or they felt was more family friendly. It kind of fit with their own kind of aesthetic as well.
That's interesting. I hadn't thought that would be a thing, but I guess that makes sense.
Yes.
So then with your work that you've done with the Museum of Modern Art now, so just so everybody is aware, Jackie sends out holiday cards most every year, and I have several of them. I will never throw them away because they are pop-up cards. They are handmade. They are phenomenal. Her work is spectacular. But tell me about the holiday cards and working with the Museum of Modern Art, because that, again, like next to Disney, MoMA, that's another huge place to work with.
Yeah, Momo was fun. I fell into that one because I had another paper artist friend, Jeff Nishinaka. He's an OG of the paper art medium, like probably been doing it longer than I've been alive. And he was doing a window display with them. And so he did this incredible display out of paper, and they asked him to submit to their holiday pop-up card line. So he asked me to work on some stuff with him for that. And then I asked if I could submit some concepts on my own, because they do an open call for that. And so I did, not knowing where it would go. And the first year went well. And so I submit every year. It doesn't always get picked up, which is why you see those gaps in years I don't send in. Because it didn't get picked up. But it's really cool. You just kind of submit full-blown concepts. You have to mock it up in full color. I send it to them, and then they go through all the submissions that year, pick out what they want, and then they almost always come back to me with some tweaks. Either it'll be like, we don't like the colors, it's too dark, or the text on it isn't quite the right fit. Do you have another phrase we could use? Or sometimes there'll be even bigger changes, like, we really love the concept of the card, but we don't like the character of the Yeti. Can you change it to a different animal or something? So we'll play around, tweak back and forth, and then at the very end, it's either like, yes, you've tweaked it to the point where we think we could go with it, or no, it's still not quite there, so we're gonna have to pass for the year. But they do that, and then once it gets submitted, they'll be the ones that actually find a company overseas to help produce it, or in-house, to figure out how to make it, and then they sell it that way.
How long does it take for you to come up with an idea, put it out? Like, how long is that first process before you submit to them?
It varies. I mean, it varies. Like, sometimes you think something is really simple and you're like, this is going to be easy. And then it takes you like 45 hours to get it to work. And then sometimes you're like, oh, this is going to be so hard. And then it only takes you 25 hours to get it to work. I would say on average to get it to submission, because basically it's a full-blown pop-up card. It'd be the equivalent of it being full color, printed, cut, reassembled. Probably on average at least 30 to 40 hours.
Mhm.
From like a blank sheet of paper to something fully done.
And do you start kind of thinking about the submission months in advance? Is this something that, like, it's July and you're like, oh, we're halfway to Christmas, I should start thinking about what I'm going to submit this year? Or is it something that you wait a little bit longer to start worrying about?
Well, what's interesting, so they usually put out their call in March. So like March this year, so submissions are due by like May or something, and then once they select them, the cards won't even be produced till next Christmas.
Okay,
So like, if I have a card picked up this year, it wouldn't be produced and released until Christmas 2026.
Okay.
Yeah, so like, it's crazy how far these companies work. Even with consumer products in Disney, it was the same way. It was like you would do it, and then they're like, great, this will be projected to be released in like 2 years, and you're like, 2 years, like Wow. But I mean, it makes sense if you think about they have to manufacture everything and then market it all. So it takes a lot of time.
Do you have a favorite point in your career up to this point? You've done so many different things, worked with so many different, we haven't even touched on the children's books yet, which we will definitely do. Is there something that you just love and that you just enjoyed?
Is there something I love and enjoy? I really did I liked doing a lot of conventions and like the in-person signings with Disney. Like they're real it's like a two-handed, it's like a double-edged sword, right? So on one hand, like I love doing them because you get to meet people and you get to talk to them, and you hear some stories of like, oh my God, I saw your work online and I came here just to see you, or I followed you for so long, and you inspired me to get into this medium or whatever. And so that's always heartwarming because it's like I would love to say that to the people who inspired me. You know what I mean? Like as a kid, like who got me into it. I just didn't have those opportunities to do that. So it's kind of crazy when I do meet people to be able to talk to them. On the other hand, it's also really nerve-wracking because like you go there and you're like, I don't know if anyone's showing up today. You know what I mean? Like I'm here for a signing and I hope somebody's here, to come see you or buy whatever you're putting out there. So it's like nerve-wracking because like you put yourself out there, right? Like literally like your heart and your soul and what you create is out there, and sometimes you get really nice people who stumble upon your work, and sometimes like you get people who make snide comments about your work too, and you're like, hi, I'm right here, this is mine, so thank you. But I've also met cool people like I don't know if I ever told you, I once met JJ Abrams through my work.
No.
Yeah, I was at a craft fair and he came up. I wasn't sure if it was him. I was like, this guy looks really familiar, because he had like his thick glasses, but he had a baseball cap on, and I'm like, where do I know him from? Like I know him from somewhere. And he pulled up one of my pop-up cards, actually, my Castle in the Sky pop-up, and he was looking at it and he was like, did you make this? And I was like, yeah. And he's like, how? Like in a computer? And I'm like, oh no, I like folded and cut it, and like you just cut it, it's with paper. And he was like, interesting. And then his son came up behind him and was like, hey, I want to go over here or whatever, and he put it down and walked away. And I was like asking my table buddy at the time, I was like, do you know who that guy was? Did you see him? And she was like, I saw him, but I don't know who he is. I'm like, no, I know him from somewhere, I just don't know where I know him. I'm like, I think that is JJ Abrams. And she was like, I don't know who that is. I'm like, don't you watch Lost? And she was like, no. So I actually went on Twitter at the time and was like, Googled the name of the craft fair and was like, JJ Abrams, like hashtag JJ Abrams. Like, is he here? Like someone must have posted about this. And sure enough, someone posted about it like 20 minutes earlier. It had a photo with him, and he was like, I gave him one of my posters. And I was like, I knew it was him. Like, I was like, oh, I should have said something. But at the same time, I was really glad I didn't know it was him, because my husband was like, well, what would you have said? And I was like, I would just wanted to know. I probably would have said like, are you JJ Abrams? And he'd be like, yes. And I'd be like, cool. Like I had no follow up to it. You know what I mean? Like it's just one of those, like, I just wanted to know. That's it. I don't like even want to bother you for a picture or whatever. It just was like, cool. Like he saw my stuff. Like it's amazing that, it had that kind of reach.
Are there people in the paper world that you have met that you geek out over meeting them because they're within the same medium and they're one of those people that can do what you do?
I don't know. I haven't geeked out over people. Jeff was probably one that I was like, I wanted to meet him for a long time. Then I had the opportunity to come up to explore his studio with him. Like he showed us a bunch of stuff, and I was just like, oh my God. It's like I don't necessarily geek out over them, but like like talking shop with
Mhm.
them. Like, oh, would like can I see this? Or like I have some paper sculptures here from different artists that work at the medium. And the first thing I'll do is I'll actually open like the frame. I'll open it and then I'll look at it like, oh, how did they how did they do this? How did they put it together? Like, and working with the medium so much, it's really cool because I can often tell like, oh, this paper brand and that's that paper brand, and oh, they're using this type of glue or that type of glue, or like, oh, I'm shocked that they're using this glue because this glue doesn't really hold up that well as this other glue. Um, so it's more like not necessarily geeking out over them, but like oh, I really love their work, like what they're doing with the medium.
Sure, the technique and all of that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, so Hawk is having some technical difficulties, but
That's
he
okay.
messaged, he wants you to explain or wants to ask if you will explain what quilling is.
Quilling is the art form of gluing paper on its edge. That's kind of the definition of it. So, if you imagine taking like like balloon ribbon, like the really thin
Mhm.
ones that you can curl with the scissors.
Yep.
That's basically kind of the size of a traditional quilling strip of paper. And then you curl it the same way you would like a ribbon. You either take scissors or you take a pencil and you coil it. And paper has this amazing ability to remember like what you do to it. So that's how a lot of my paper sculptures stay in place, is that if you curl a sheet of paper or you bend it, the paper will remember what you did to it. And then you're able to, with quilling specifically, put a little bit of glue on one edge and then put it down a sheet of paper, let it dry, and then it will hold on to that.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So is there, I mean, obviously all of this, like you said, the MoMA stuff, 30 to 40 hours of work goes into those. Has there been a moment where you've created something goes very wrong, like late in the process, and you have to start all over? Is that just daunting from a creative standpoint?
It's yeah, I mean, every artist runs into that at some point. Usually either I have to cut it. I've had to rip it off one time. Um, oh, it was a client project. Yeah. So I did this hospital campaign with a group in North Carolina, and they wanted the biggest sculptures I've ever made, 2 feet by 3 feet, or 3 feet by 3 feet by 4 feet. They were big, and they don't make a lot of paper that big. So
I was
I
going to
had to
ask, what kind of
figure
paper do
out,
you use for something like that?
yeah. So I had to figure out how to design all my shapes within what paper size naturally comes in without getting custom made paper, which I didn't even know if that was possible. And then I put it all together and I shipped it to them. By the time I shipped it to them, they came back and they were like, "Hey, I don't know if it's because it's really humid out here, but some of the paper is warping." Um, so I had to fly back out to them and figure out how to fix what was curling the wrong way. Some of that took literally like ripping it apart. Like I remember I ripped off a piece and one of the people was like audible like gasp. Like I was like, it's okay. Like just I'll just fix it. And it's true, like I'll just fix it. But like, yeah, you have to rip it apart. It would be the same thing as like I would think like sewing, right? Like you sew something, you realize like, oh poo, like it's in the wrong place. Like you have to rip it off and do it again. It's not the end of the world. It's just one of those like sucks. I have to put in double the time. So some of it was like I had to take a piece off. I had to literally iron the paper back into place, like smooth it back down. Or I had to cut a completely new piece out of the old shape by tracing it. But yeah, it's less fun when you have to do it in front of your client. It's not as bad when you do it by yourself in your room with no one to witness such a mistake.
So you also do custom pieces, kind of what,
Yeah.
you work for individual clients. How, people come to you and they say, I want you to create something for me. What are some of the things that, do you have parameters that you need people to stick to? Do you, could somebody call up and say, I want a 2-foot statue, or is that specific for a business? What do people reach out and ask you for?
I mean, business inquiries are different from personal. So, personal inquiries, we call those just personal commissions. A lot of times it is a gift for somebody, right? It'll be like, hey, I've had ones where like my dad is retiring. He was a sheriff. We would love to get a paper version of his badge made. I've done that. I've done like it's our anniversary. I would love to get something made to commemorate this. Or I have a couple of like my pet passed away. I would really love to get like a commission of my pet. I did one for some fans that followed me for a long time. They were gonna get engaged, so I made one and set it up for them at one of my conventions. And he brought his girlfriend at the time from Hawaii all the way over, and they were looking at my booth, and he's like, oh, look at this piece, isn't this one pretty cool? And I had written on it like, will you marry me? And she was like, wait, is that us? Like, so he proposed in front of my booth through that piece. That was really great. I had people commission me for a long time doing pop-up proposals. Actually, I did a lot of books, so people would reach out to me saying, I'm looking to propose to my significant other. Would you be willing to basically make the story of us? And so it was like, our first date, travel, like favorite memories together. And then at the end, usually it's usually an image of a guy proposing to his girlfriend, asking, will you marry me? And then, so I had a lot of those. I did this for a long time up until I had my son, and then I just couldn't. I haven't done a personal commission in quite a while, just due to time constraints of family.
It's hard when you get the kids coming. That's
yes,
all of us here on Mousecast could also.
Yeah, I mean, like the normal
that.
cards, if they take 40 hours, it used to be like 1 week I could get it knocked out, and now with kids and work and all that other stuff, it's like, oh, it took me 3 weeks to get this done. 3 weeks to squeeze in 40 hours.
I think I remember seeing some of the proposal books maybe on your Instagram account.
Yeah.
How does, with something like paper, I mean, is it easy to translate that over onto social media to show people what you've done, and how do you go about doing that?
I'm pretty bad about social media. Like it's like, I think it's just kind of also the way we grew up of like, don't give people your information. You know what I mean? Like, don't open the door for strangers. Like, don't, like, and then you have this whole other thing where like, then social media comes out. I remember my sister telling me to get on Instagram, and I'm like, what is Instagram? Right. She's like, it's Facebook, but just pictures. Right. Like, and no one even knew what an influencer was going to be. Right. And then you had them, and then you thought like, oh, they're just for lifestyle and like fancy things. But then you realize like creators and artists were now becoming brands. And I'm like, oh, like, but it's hard because like, it's not in my nature to want to do that. You know what I mean? Like, to put myself out there, to put what I do out there. And then you have the like, well, who wants to listen to me? There's a million other people who've already been doing this. Like, what do I have to add to the conversation? So I think when I was younger, probably would have been the time to do it. When you didn't have kids, you didn't have as much to like, in some ways protect, right? Because you put yourself out there, then you have to decide like what's public and what's not public, what's up for commentary and what's not up for commentary. And then you see those situations, at least for me, I feel like people like post one funny thing that they did with their kids, and then all the internet's like, I can't believe you do that as a mom, right? Like, so it's just one of those like, what do I make public? What do I not make public? And then it's just easier for me, I feel like, to focus on the work. But because with family and other stuff or projects that are private, like I can't always show what I'm working on. So then I feel like, oh, I don't really have much to even show you because I can't show it to you when it's being worked on. So it's social media is like I get it. I do like it. I'm on it. I wish I could be on it more, but at the same time, like I don't know. I just also like not being on it sometimes.
One of the things that you have been able to share on there is your work doing children's books.
Yeah.
Piggy Panda is the first one, right? That was
Yeah.
first.
Mm-hmm.
And I have it in my house. My children, we've had it for a couple years now, and they read it. They love that book over and over and over again.
I'm glad.
And one of the things that I remember seeing on, I think it was on your Instagram, I don't think you messaged it to me, was when it appeared on the bookshelf of a Kardashian, and it was
Yeah.
posted, like it showed up on Keeping Up with the Kardashians, and it was in the background there. What is that like? And
That
who
was
said
weird. My husband Frank told me. One of his nurses told him actually. They were
Okay,
like,
I was gonna say
I
Frank.
saw
There's
your
no way that
wife's
Frank.
book on the Kardashians, and he was like, what? Like those words don't make sense. Like, can you explain what that means? And she was like, yeah. And she like pulled up the episode and scrolled to it and was like, isn't that her book? Like right here. And he was like, yeah, can you send me a screen grab of that? And so he came home super excited to tell me, one of my nurses said she saw your stuff on the Kardashians. And I was like, what? So then I went through and I was like, ask her what episode that was. And she's like, okay, it was this season and this episode. And I got a went to it and was like, oh my God, that is. And it was basically for, I think, like Courtney's baby shower with Travis. And I think it was probably my local bookstore once upon a time. They have signed copies of my book, and I think they sent somebody there and was like, hey, pick up a bunch of books to gift at this baby shower from us to our sister. And they just grabbed a whole collection of whatever was autographed and there at the time. I think I was just so lucky to have been there in that spot. So they grabbed it, placed it on bookshelves, and then it was a B-roll footage shot. And I was like, I'll take it. Like it's cool.
Awesome.
Yeah, to see how far it goes.
So where did Picky Panda come from?
Piggy Panda was actually inspired by conversation, argument, disagreement I was having with a friend. And I was like, not everything is black and white. Like you can't go in the world thinking it's one way or the other. Like there's a lot of gray, you know what I mean? Like, and life is in the gray. And that kind of inspired the character of Picky Panda to say, like, well, what if there was a character that did live their life through black and white, like only black and white? And then one day, they get something that throws their world into chaos, right? That is not, they don't know what to do with it. How are they going to deal with the red flower if everything in their house is black and white? But they also know right from wrong, and they know it's wrong to just throw something out, especially if it's a gift. So that was the kind of struggle and inspiration for that book.
My kids absolutely love it. So for anybody who isn't familiar with Picky Panda, you should be. First of all, go find it. But Panda is, everything is right or wrong, everything is black or white, and this little girl gives him a red flower. And like Jackie said, I love that you build in that expectation. I think our generation definitely feels this of like, you can't throw away a gift. That's rude. Like there's those social expectations of things. So he takes it home and he tries to find this perfect spot for this red flower, and there's just no way to make it work in a black and white house. And it's phenomenal. My kids fight over turning the flaps, and they even, I mean, my kids are 3 and 4 now. They've been reading it since they were 1 and 2, and they get it. They grabbed onto it. They love him. They're like, Mommy, he needs color. He's like,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that was one of my favorite parts of the book. With my paper engineering background, I really wanted to make a picture book that also had some interaction to it, right? So that's where the flaps come in, where the reader becomes kind of part of the story, where they get to move the flaps and it kind of changes the text, right? Or moves the story along. And so I thought that was one of my favorite parts of doing that. And I was really glad that got to be my debut book because, I just love working with interactive children's books and different formats of that.
and then the other one is different though, because it's not a flat book. It's one of the early reader books. Is that
Yeah,
right?
we call them step into reading books.
There we
So
go.
it's kind of like the books you would give kids when they're learning to um, uh, start reading on their own independently. And that one also came from Picky Panda because we submitted to an editor who passed on Picky Panda, but was like, we're looking for an early reader on the subject of Lunar New Year or Chinese New Year, and asked if I would be interested in writing a book for that. So I did that one, and that was really cool because I got to involve my family. My dad wrote the Chinese poems like that you see in the book, and then my grandma actually did the calligraphy for the book, and
Oh,
I scanned all
cool.
that in and put it in with the artwork. So my dad's words and my grandma's handwriting are in the book, and then based a lot of the characters off of my own family members, and then also got to learn about a lot of traditions. Even though I am Chinese and celebrate Chinese New Year, we didn't celebrate as heavily, and then I got to learn through research about a lot of the traditions on like why do we eat fish, why do we eat noodles, why do we give red envelopes, what's the significance of the color red. And I actually like gave a copy to my mom the book, and she was like, I didn't even know half these things. And I was like, everybody learned something. So yeah, that was another really fun project.
Do you have any plans to do more books? Is that the route that you're kind of thinking of moving in? Is that or one of the avenues? Obviously, you have more than one. Are you thinking about doing another book or even a pop-up book where you actually get to build out a little bit more of that depth with the paper?
Yeah, I have been pitching some board books around. You must, interactive board books, because that's where the most interactivity comes from for a lot of books. With COVID, they still have supply chain issues. So a
Mm.
lot of it is just really expensive to manufacture. So we've been on submission with a couple books that have gotten the like, we like it, but we can't make it because our ability to produce more of those types of books has gone down. So like instead of being able to maybe make 10 books a year, we are making only 5, and ultimately it doesn't make the cut.
Wow. I don't think
Yeah.
most of us think about the effects of COVID and the pandemic, 5, almost 6 years later now. That's crazy. So, having been an artist, I don't know where you were exactly in your career when the pandemic hit. How did that affect your career and the industry with paper? Because I never thought about that.
It just, I mean, anytime there's like a kind of a downturn in the economy, arts is definitely the first to go, right? It's just, kind of expendable as a luxury. You know what I mean? No one really needs a commission to survive, if you had to pick and choose what you're going to spend your money on. So arts typically is the first to go. So we typically see like a shrinkage in work, just the employers reaching out, saying what they want to do, or they'll find other alternatives to kind of produce what they want versus in a more robust economy they're like, we got money to spend, like let's hire the more expensive people or hire more people to do more projects that we want to do. And they could take a little bit more risks, right? So anytime like a publisher puts out a book, it is a risk. Like they don't know if it's going to be a New York Times bestseller or it could sell like 5 copies and be a total flop. So when they have more money to spend, they can take on riskier projects per se, and like newer authors and illustrators versus someone more established. So I think that's kind of how it affects people, especially during COVID and stuff.
Would you go back and do like if Disney came back to you and said, "Hey, we want you to, come back to the Wonderland Gallery or do something else," or any of the big, the big places, the big names, or are those kind of like, I did that was really great again, back when I didn't have kids, when I had more time, or at this point if they came to you and said, "We want to commission pieces and we want to do this," it'd be like, "Oh, the time for that or, the commitment there is just not where I'm at anymore."
That's hard. That's hard because like on one hand, it's not like a been there, done there that, but like oh, I remember how much work this was. Like I remember like how many hours I have to put in, all the things I have to jump through, like the flights and the being there for a week, and how am I going to do this with kids now, Um, but on the other hand, it's like, well, yeah, it's Disney. Drop everything. Let's go. Like, of course. And so I think it really just depends on what it is, right? And how demanding it would be. And it's never a flat out no. It's always like, okay, can I make this work? Like, I want to try to make it work if we can make it work. But, at the end of the day, um, it's also like money versus family, right? Like like art is fun. I love it. But it's also one of those like I stopped doing conventions because the amount I would make compared to the time I would spend away wasn't worth it anymore.
Yep.
To me personally, right?
Mhm.
Like everyone has a different like measurement of that, but it was like I have to find childcare to help supplement when I'm not there. How much am I actually going to make at the booth? And then what's the time I have to put in to prep all the stuff to put into the booth, right? Like printing and packaging and buying materials that is not guaranteed to be recuperated, right? So then that's the risk of like if I invest all this money and this product doesn't do as well as I think, now I've also taken literally money out of our bank to put food on the table, right? So it's like what my risk tolerance is. And I think now that I have kids, it just puts more into perspective of what I'm willing to give up to do it. And it's a little bit different, but I would say for sure if it was Disney, I would have a hard time passing that up. I would be like I need my mom here. Like call my mom, like whatever, have her here. We'll figure it out.
Is there something that, whether it's the industry and what it could do, or something that you would love to do with paper that you have not yet had the opportunity to do? Is there something, or even a direction of paper art, the direction that the industry could go in, some way to, meld it into something else, some other part of art that maybe hasn't been used yet or really fleshed out yet? Is there anything that you have in mind that you would just love to see either for yourself or the industry?
Ooh, that's a good one. I don't know. I've had a lot of ideas, and then I've seen like similar things here and there. You know what I mean? Like later on, years later, it's like, oh yeah, I had something similar, like an idea similar to that a long time ago. I don't know. I think paper is just a really cool medium. It could fit into anywhere. There's a lot of places where it works really well. And I don't think there's any one specific industry or place I would want to see it move towards. But I do think that there's other ways it could be used more creatively in certain spaces. So like, for example, most people for holidays send out photo cards now, right? Like that's just the big standard. So I pitched to MoMA that got rejected the idea of pop-up photo cards, right?
Ooh.
So like you could do a pop-up card, but people could insert a family photo, right? So it looked like more like a 3D frame when people got it and could keep it up. And there was a lot of debate internally for them, and even in my own family, like my sisters who send them are like, I don't have a printer. How am I going to print these cards? And like, if I'm going to print the cards, why would I buy your card to put it in the thing? You know what I mean? Like, it's too much work. So I was like, oh, I get it. And so it was an interesting concept. And I have a lot of ideas that I love to do. But at the end of the day, for me, the biggest one is I don't want to be a manufacturer. Like, I don't want to sit in my studio and make like 100 pop-up cards by hand, because it's the only way to make them in small batches. So yeah, I'm just interested to kind of see like where it could go, or the idea that like I love letterpress, right? And I'm like, oh, I'd be interested to know, like, can you make like letterpress illustrations but like 3D? You know what I mean? Like layered and in an interesting way. Like, what else could you do with that? So there's little things here and there that like I ideate on. I really love, like I said, animation. That's what got me into art to begin with. Like, I love the idea of using paper in like stop motion to create animation, but I'm not an animator. Like, it's really tedious. I don't know how to make things move in the way that it is, but that's something I would probably want to dive into if I had more time in my life as well.
I love the stop animation. That would be really cool. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, it's fun. It's just like, yeah, I need more people helping with this who can do the parts that I'm no good at.
So how, you're what, almost 20 years in now. We've been out of college a while, which is getting very scary. Um, how did your dad feel about your art now? You didn't go into film.
No, I did not. Um, as Asian parents, it's not bad, right? Like, it's not bad is the highest compliment I'm going to get. And yeah, it's not bad these days.
Excellent. Is there anything that you are working on other than, I know that Picky Panda is still available. Is there a specific place that people can find Picky Panda if they want to check out a copy?
The local bookstore is always the best. If they want a signed copy or a dedicated copy, definitely go through my local bookstore, Once Upon a Time bookstore in California. They will actually reach out to me and say, hey, we have an order that needs to be signed or has an order that needs an inscription. And then I'll drive out there and do it for you. But if you want like a personalized copy, that's the best. Otherwise, most retailers, local bookstores or the big boxes will have it.
And then I know you said you're not big on social media, but are there places online that people can find you?
Yeah, Instagram is the one I'm still on, and then I just started a Substack. I like the idea of kind of diving deeper into my process a little bit, and then just talking more about life in a deeper philosophical kind of way that I feel like Instagram doesn't account for in the 2-second snippets that you see. So if you want to peek into my brain, Substack would be the next step.
Excellent. And we'll also link that in the show notes for anybody watching so that they can get those. Jackie, we really appreciate the time, all the information. This has been fascinating. I don't think that paper art is something that people think about, and this is really great. Thanks so much for coming on.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for listening to Mousecast. We appreciate the time you share with us. And tonight was a very fun show, and joining us is a must. This is where the mind meets the magic. We dive a little deeper every time. Theme parks, cruise ships, and travel. If you don't listen, maybe now it's time. Mousecast, now say